Hey there, Wolfpack fans. It's me again, Kenton Gibbs, with my main man, Grayson Booten, in the building as always. And folks, we are talking Pac 9. We're talking baseball. This team has dropped yet another ACC series, which I believe takes us to what? 0-2 or 0-3 in terms of ACC?
0-3 in series, but we're 3-6 in the ACC.
Okay, 0-3 on series, 3-6 in ACC. We're going to talk this series, whether or not the level of concern is raising, and a stretch of the schedule coming up that could have people singing a different tune if things go well. Grayson, are you ready to talk some baseball?
I'm ready. Let's talk some stickball.
All righty, well, let's do it. Folks, stick around. We got an exciting episode coming to you. And again, we're going to be talking baseball and more on today's episode of Locked On Wolfpack.
You are Locked On NC State, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So, Grayson, we go up to Boston College, a Boston College team that is much improved, right, over what they have historically been. That we came away with a loss in what seemed to be a really great opportunity to win our first conference series of the season in a game 3 that was described as words that I cannot say without losing our clean rating. But redacting the bed. What say you? How did this series go down?
Okay, so first of all, I want to start off. This is an improved Boston College team. It is not the Boston College you've come to expect years past. Typically, whenever we see those guys, this sounds a bit cocky, but you can expect 2 or 3 wins out of the series. This year is a different story. They are very much the surprise of the ACC, I would say. Coming into this series against us, they had swept Kennesaw State on the road. Kennesaw State's a strong program that you typically see them somewhere in the NCAA tournament year in and year out. Mm-hmm. They went down to Knoxville and beat Tennessee in a midweek game. That is no easy task at all. Tennessee is a mainstay in the power rankings, the national rankings, and you see them year in, year out in the NCAA tournament. And then once ACC play started, you kind of thought, let's see if this Boston College team is for real. Well, I think they've proven themselves, not just before we played them, but now after we've played them as well. They won the series on the road at Virginia Tech, at Florida State, and then just beat us 2 out of 3 up in Boston. So I think it's safe to say Boston College is for real. In a very Stephen A. Smith voice, however, there is no excuse for the way that we just blew this series.
I give you a Stephen A. B+.
What's that?
Solid B+ on the Stephen A. Smith. Solid B+.
I've been working
things to improve there, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Blasphemous.
Pretty good.
The blasphemous describes the way we finished out this series up in Boston. And I'll get right into it. So game 1, we have Logan Whitaker on the mound. He's been our Friday night starter. I have my own personal thoughts on that. We'll touch on that in just a second. But as much as he has struggled in the ACC openers, I thought he looked pretty well. He did pretty well in game 1 at Boston College. He threw 6 2/3 innings, scattered 5 hits. He had 4 earned runs, but 3 of those runs came off of 1 swing, which is a 3-run home run. Outside of that, I thought he was pretty effective. He limited damage where he could. And you got to be able to overcome one mistake like that. And we could not, unfortunately. The offense just could not get anything going outside of Jacob Cozart, who I want to highlight Jacob Cozart because he is having a season that I think not a lot of people have been tuned into quite yet, especially the improvement we've seen from his freshman season last year. I saw NC State Baseball had a great Instagram post today, kind of a highlight reel for what he's done so far. He's hitting .403, and we are about to roll into April. And a lot of times when we play the early non-conference series, the numbers get a bit inflated when we're steamrolling teams, we're knocking the ball over the yard. And then once you get into ACC play, you kind of see the numbers slowly trickle down. Jacob Cozart's going the other way. He's going up. And it feels like of recently, he's the only one doing so. And
Right.
so despite his efforts in game one, we were just not able to push across more than one run. And I kind of have this, it's not exactly a theory, but it's an observation. We feel a bit snake bitten right now. It's kind of like a push and pull. When the offense provides, we have trouble pitching and defense. When the pitching comes out and shoves, we can't hit. And then the defense is just kind of a wild card all over the place. But it's just, I've seen a lot of people frustrated. I understand the frustration. There's been points where I'm frustrated, but it's just, you can't stay snake bitten forever. And the game one where we lost 4-1, it just kind of felt like a snake bitten type game. And despite the struggles in game one, you still felt good about our chances in taking the series in game 2 and 3. And I know on Saturday they ended up getting rained out. So they had to play a doubleheader on Sunday. But just to recap game one, it was just one of those games where you just couldn't muster much of anything. We had multiple runners on base.
Wait a minute. Before we get into the second game of the series here, I need to talk about something. This seems to be the second year where the defense in particular, like even aside from the pitching, just the defense in particular seems to be a wild card. And that's uncharacteristic a little bit of an Elliott Avent coach team. What would you attribute that to?
I think I don't want to call it laziness because I don't feel like that's the answer, but at times it feels like that's the answer. I think maybe you can attribute a little bit to it of guys playing maybe positions they're not fully comfortable in. We've been kind of plugging and playing with the outfielders. We have Trevor Candelaria. He's currently injured. He'll probably be back sooner than later, but Noah Souls is the same. He's nursing a hamstring. So we're kind of mixing and matching. But again, it's just the defense that I've seen recently. There's no excuse. The missing what seems to be easy fly balls in the outfield. You can't ever have that. Not in non-conference play, not in ACC play, ever. You just can't afford small mistakes like that. And it just seems like we've been compounding these types of mistakes in bad spots when the bullpen really needs to come through and clean up a mess. It feels like one small mistake hurts the most. And It's been frustrating to watch. I mean, especially in these games like game one here, when we're struggling to get anything done offensively. You leave multiple runners on base in the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th innings and are not able to push across more than one run to chip into the Boston College lead.
Right.
That makes your margin for error on the defensive side so small. And
I feel like winning covers over a multitude of sins. And it's at the end of the day, the things that we talk about contribute to losing. But if you do knock over some runs in that 7th, 8th, and 9th, right? If you clear the bases, right? If you find a way, even if you don't clear the bases, if you just drive in 2 runs per, I believe they win that game, correct?
At least, yeah, because it was 4-1, but you multiple runners on in the last 4, at bats you have 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. That's all the opportunity you could ask for, and just couldn't make it happen. So, not to say the defense was the reason we lost this game. I think ultimately it's just because the offense just couldn't get it done. But that happens sometimes. Like I said the last episode or 2 episodes ago, sometimes you just run into a pitcher. He's having a great day, and he gets whatever he wants. And that's kind of how it worked out in game one. Like I said, Whitaker threw a pretty decent game. The bullpen came in. I believe it was Highfill and Baker Nelson. They came in behind them. They went 1 2/3 innings scoreless, meaning they cleaned up behind them. They didn't allow anything else to go on and just couldn't capitalize. So as frustrating as that was, like I said, you got to feel good about your chances in taking game 2 and 3 and leaving Boston with the series, because this is a series we desperately needed to have. And transitioning now into game 2, the team looked like they understood that. And they came out and they took it to them, smoked them in game 2. I think we finished with 18 hits. That's the most hits we've had in the ACC game in I think just about 2 years. So it feels like they got the message. We won game 2 by a score of 12-2. On the mound, Matt Wilson threw another great game. He's having a great season so far. I think people kind of get caught up in pitching wins and losses. That's not exactly as a definite stat as some might think, because in these games, for example, Logan Whitaker in game 1 throws a pretty good game. Offense can't do anything, so he gets a loss. And that's happened a couple times to Wilson this year. So he got the win in game 2, but he has a record of 2-3. That's not bad. That's not as bad as it sounds, because his ERA is very low. His earned run average is very low. And
He's
again,
just not getting any run support when he's
exactly
on the mound. I got you.
Exactly. So, and again, game 2 here, Wilson went 6 innings, scattered 5 hits. He gave up 2 runs, but both of them were unearned because of a error. I believe it was to Peyton Green at short, an error, and then followed up with a 2-run home run in the 3rd inning. So both of those are unearned. They don't go against Wilson, and it just further proves these small mistakes, they will snowball on you so fast at any level of baseball, but especially in the ACC.
Right.
And so you cannot afford the mental mistakes on defense. You have to be so tight defensively to be able to maybe counter for lack of offense, or when your bullpen is struggling, you have to be able to keep the fortress fortified. That was a horrible way to phrase that, but you understand what I'm saying.
I get you. We'll get into game 3. We'll get into game 3 because I can tell you're passionate about this. I can tell you're fired up about this. And I know that if I let you keep going, we would keep going for the full 30 minutes. That'd be a safe bet to say that you got a mouthful about this team fumbling away this series up in Boston. But we're going to talk game 3 right after we talk to you about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Folks, the tournament has reached the Final Four. It is time. It is the time to crown a champion for the men's and women's side of the brackets. And trust me, the reality is simple. If you go to FanDuel, you will have a chance at a no sweat first bet of up to $1,000 back. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. So, folks, it's a win-win. You either win or you win free bets. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and sign up today to claim your no sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line, the point spreads, to which team is cutting down the net. All that on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So don't miss out on your no sweat first bet of up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. All righty. So tell me, game 3, how did it go down? How did we lose this series?
I have the most to say about game 3 because it was the most frustrating. So
and that's why I had to cut you out. That's why I had to get to break it, because I knew you was gonna get into it. But tell us about it.
So as I was saying, in game 2, the offense showed up. We were hitting the ball over the yard, scoring runs, making it happen.
Right.
And in game 3, early on, it looked like we were going to continue that trend. We had a couple key base hits early. We got out front early. I think we were up 3-0 in the 3rd or 4th inning. And then we had another humongous 6th inning, just like we saw in game 2. Peyton Green came up and hit another home run, his team leading 8th home run. Jacob Cozart, I keep talking about him. It's because he keeps showing up. He stayed hot. I think he raked in another double, 2 RBI double. We went up 7-2. And unfortunately, this is the last positive things I have to say about game 3. So bottom 6 rolls around. Boston College scores 2 on a very catchable, in my opinion, fly ball to left field. It bounces in front of, I believe it was Trice at the time in left field. Got to have that. Have to have that ball. With runners on base, with the bullpen struggles that we've had, you have to do whatever you can to make sure that's an out. And he didn't. It bounces. It goes over his head. 2-run score. Immediate momentum shift to Boston College. And I want to keep in mind that this is with Sam Highfill on the mound coming out of the bullpen. And Highfill, because a lot of people are hearing Highfill and they're getting concerned that he's still coming out of the bullpen. A lot of people, like myself, are wondering, are we going to see him start games? Yada, yada, yada. He's been one of our best arms out of the bullpen. So he's been kind of caught in no man's land where if you take him out of the bullpen, you're taking one of your most reliable arms in the back half of the game and starting him. And so I believe Avent's probably stuck in that right now, and he feels like he can't make a change quite yet. So he's got Highfill on the mound again. He also pitched in game 2. Got him on the mound again in relief in game 3. He gives up 2 on the very catchable, I guess in the scorebook, it's a base hit to left field. So Boston College closes the lead. And then lo and behold, here comes a 2-run home run from Nick Wang. Boston College is now down by 1. It's 7-6. And from this point on, as a State fan, you could feel yourself dying a slow death. And not to kick the Wolfpack when we're down, but Wolfpack fans are accustomed to this across the board in all sports. We know what a slow death feels like, and it instantly felt like one of those. Boston College hits another home run in the bottom of the 8th to tie it up at 7. And at this point, the offense just kind of goes cold when you need it the most. Couldn't get anything done. We end up going into extra innings. We walk the first 2 batters, bottom 10. So right off the bat, it's like, okay, now it's a matter of time. Unless we get a miracle here and pull this out, we have shot ourselves in the foot yet again, and we're going to have to see what happens. Next batter, infield single, bases loaded, no outs. And then Boston College ends up winning it on a fly ball to right, another very catchable ball, and it's dropped. Game over. Now, I don't want to harp too much on the error in right field because if it's caught, they probably tag up and score the game-winning run anyway. But I just want to reiterate how poor the defense has been. And it's compounding to a point where we're not directly losing games based on defense, but it's such a snowball effect that it makes the bullpen look a lot worse than maybe they have been, but they've been bad. And like I said, it just compounds on you so fast, and you will lose ball games before you even realize you've lost ball games. And so yet again, we have dropped another series. This was on the road at Boston College, and we started off this episode. We're now 0-3 in ACC series thus far. We've pulled out a game in each 3 of them, so we're 3-6 in the ACC, but extremely frustrating start, and you feel like we're a lot better than our record would tell you, I believe. Some people would disagree with me because they get frustrated immediately, but I think we're a lot better than our record would tell you. But on the other hand, something has to change. Something has to change, whether it's the starting rotation, which I think is a decent place to start, whether it's defensively, moving guys around, sticking new guys in the lineup. I want to mention Chase Nixon has been getting more of an opportunity with the injuries to Noah Souls and Trevor Candelaria. I think Chase Nixon is, he's putting up a good case for why he should be a mainstay in the lineup. He had a couple big hits this weekend, but something overall, it has to change because we're dropping games we should have no business dropping. And if you keep going down that trend, you're going to see this season end exactly like you saw last season end, and we will not be in the NCAA tournament once June rolls around. So extremely frustrating weekend. But what are your thoughts, Ken? I want to hear what you think.
Honestly, I'm never a guy that's like, this team is much better than their record after a prolonged period of time. Like if we've gone 3 ACC series in and we found a way to lose all 3, the snake can only bite you for so long, okay? Like before, that's just who you are. And trust me, again, I'm a Lions fan, folks. I know when you got a snake-bitten team and when you got a bad team. And I'm not saying that this team is bad, but they need to pull out an ACC series win here soon if they're going to I'll tell you this, it'll no longer be a loud minority if you look at going 5-6 series in without a win. Like that's just not the case. And I'll tell you this, with the schedule they got coming up, it's a very real possibility. Talk to me about this gauntlet that they're going to run through coming up in a few here.
They do. So this is the last week of March before we roll into April. And the NC State schedule in April is a gauntlet. And that's no reason to get discouraged, because if things go well, this looks extremely good on the resume. And so we're going to start off. We play UNCG today, Tuesday. That's a home game. We last saw them on the road, and that was the game. I believe it was like 15-13. Felt like an ugly football game out in Greensboro. So we're gonna have another shot at them. That's the game where you feel like we have to have. It's not going to affect our ACC record, but these midweek games are equally important once you get to the end of the year and you stack up your resume against the other teams. But this weekend, we have Louisville coming into town. Last time I checked, I believe they're number 11 or 12 in the country. So we have zero time to sit around and feel sorry for ourselves.
Right.
And behind them, I've mentioned this before, we still have to play East Carolina twice. Last time I checked, I think they're number 6 in the country. They kind of scuffled a little bit early on. They're going to come in and they're going to want to take it to us because we swept them last year. And their team this year could be even better than last. So we got to go on the road to Greenville early April. We got to go on the road to Winston-Salem to see Wake Forest. Guess what they're ranked? Number 2 in the country. ACC baseball is no slouch at all. And especially, go ahead.
And I just want to say this. With, like you said, with this schedule, it's a huge opportunity to show, hey, we're the real deal. We are who the fans who believe in us say that we are. If you win, if you come away with 3 of the next 4 series, then you will de facto have beaten some of the top teams in the country. So, while there is, I'm not saying I'm hitting the panic button. My hand is hovering over it a little bit. It's hovering, not going to lie to you. But if you are to win a majority of these next 3 to 4 series, that hand goes completely away. And we know that this team is what they are at that point.
Exactly. And you phrased that perfectly. As frustrating as these first couple of series have been, all the opportunity we could ask for still lies ahead of us. And that is in Louisville. That is in Wake Forest. We have to see Florida State here in Raleigh. They've been kind of struggling. So that feels like maybe that's an opportunity we can take advantage of. We have to have Clemson here in Raleigh. They're kind of all over the place with their program hitting the reboot button with their new coach. So maybe that's another example of something we can take advantage of. We're going to have East Carolina here in Raleigh at the end of April. Then we get a non-conference series in the Citadel. Got to make up some ground there with your record. And then once May rolls around, you only have a couple more weekends before you hit ACC tournament play. So the opportunity still lies ahead of us. If we want to get to where we want to go, which is the NCAA tournament, it's still there. It's still on the table. It's still able to be taken. But like I was saying, things have to change, and they have to change now. Defensively, the bullpen struggles. More consistent offense, I guess I want to say, in situational spots. But I've seen each of those 3 pillars, offense, pitching, and defense, I've seen the flashes where if all 3 things come together, we're a good baseball team.
Right.
It's just been that push and pull where you have one, but you don't have the other 2. You have 2, you're without one. It's been that way throughout the season thus far. But there's still plenty of time. And like you said, I don't believe you should be hitting the panic button quite yet. Maybe glance at it. Maybe read the panic word on it. Don't hit that button yet, though.
Well, now, Grayson, I heard you still got some eligibility left, man. I heard they could use. I heard defense was your specialty back when you played club baseball, man. I'm going to have to put in a call to Elliot Avon and say, hey, I got a guy. You know what I mean? I got a guy that can shore up that defense a little bit going forward. What you think, man?
If they're looking for somebody in the bullpen that can bring some 70 poo, then I might be the guy.
God. Never mind. Never, because that is 450 dead center, folks. That is you bring 70 in the ACC, it's going to be an exit velo of 90. So we're not really worried about that. Never mind. I'm going to hang up, Elliot. I'm hanging up. Don't worry, buddy. But yeah, no, this is a team that, again, everything is still right in front of them. It's still early in the season. But you need to win these series. You need to come up with the timely hits and whatnot. We'll be right back after word from our sponsor to land this thing. So again, in closing, I think that what you're getting at here is that there is just a lack of clutch gene in this team, that we collapse when there's a lead. When we do come back from big holes like we did in Miami, we just can't again, the clutch gene just is not there to, as soon as we tie the game up, boom, a single, a solo shot unties the game for Miami. It just seems like when we need the clutch play the most, we go into extra innings and immediately 2 hits or a walk and a hit to have two runners on base right away. It just seems like, for whatever reason, we are as unclutch right now as many people pretend that LeBron James is.
I mean, you had to throw LeBron in there. I think we've shown elements of having clutch genes. I think we have clutch players. It's just that we will have those big clutch moments, but then we turn around and we're not able to finish.
Right.
And in the ACC especially, I keep harping on ACC baseball. The margin for error is so small because all of these teams, with the exception of just a couple, are very good. You saw this against Virginia, Miami. You're going to see Louisville, Wake Forest, North Carolina down the road. These are great teams, and you just cannot afford to mess around and find out. And unfortunately, been doing a little bit too much messing around. So you have to capitalize when you have clutch moments from Cannon Peebles or Jacob Cozart. Dom Fritton on the mound on Sundays is just a freshman. He's number 3 nationally in earned run average. Mm-hmm. Every time you have a guy that you can roll out there on Sunday and he's going to hold the other team to virtually nothing, you have to come out with that game. You simply have to. So just to recap, there's so much time ahead of us. There's so much ground we can still make up, but you got to start this weekend with Louisville here in Raleigh.
Absolutely. Well, I couldn't have said it better myself. If as the old saying goes, if it is to be, it's up to me. This is what this Wolfpack team needs to say to themselves, because if you want to turn this season around, if you want to get it going better, again, Grayson didn't want to say it, but there was a call out of laziness there. And I'm going to tell you this much. At the end of the day, being locked in mentally and doing the little things right, that's between you and you. You know what I'm saying? Like, the ability to, if you can't throw 90, you can't throw 90. That's incumbent upon the coach to figure that out in a better way, right? If you can't hit the ball over the fence a majority of the time, that's on the coach to figure. If we're having drop balls in the outfield in crucial moments, I mean, what do you want the coach to do? He's putting you in position to win the game. It's incumbent upon you, the player, to go out there and do it. So, we're going to leave it there. But again, Wolfpack Nation, don't hit the panic button. Look at it, maybe. Shine it off a little bit. Shine it off.
Don't hit it. I promise. Don't hit it yet. Don't hit it yet.
We got some good stuff coming up that this team could make it very clear that we could put the panic button away for darn near the season if these next few weeks or month goes right. So that's just our thoughts there. Thank y'all so very much for coming out. Y'all make this show what it is, Wolfpack Nation. I appreciate y'all every single time. Peace and love, y'all. And as always, go Pack.
Go Pack.
You are Locked On NC State, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.